Hey, what's going on, guys? In this one, we are talking about the Long Dark's Episode 5 hotfix. This patch, which the studio listed as Survival 2.55 and Episode 5 2.54, first went out as a Steam hotfix and then rolled out to other platforms shortly after, including PlayStation and Xbox. So by April 25th, it was already in the hands of more players beyond Steam. The biggest thing to know here is that this update is really about smoothing out the rough edges that showed up after Episode 5 launched. One of the more noticeable fixes is for the previously on sequence in Episode 5. Before this patch, if you switched away from the game and came back, that cinematic could restart from the beginning, which is the kind of thing that instantly pulls you out of the moment. Hinterland fixed that, so the sequence now behaves properly when you Alt-Tab or swap away from the game and return. There are also some important console fixes in here, especially for PlayStation players. The patch addresses an issue where survival mode photos taken before the Episode 5 update could show up as empty images, which is a pretty frustrating problem if you were trying to preserve older saves or memories from your run. It also fixes an error message that said, cannot create more save data for this application, which could block saving altogether, and it improves save data handling to reduce storage conflicts when the game launches. Those fixes matter because survival games live and die by save reliability, and nobody wants their progress blocked by a storage error right when things are getting tense. And then there is the crash cleanup, which is probably the most practical part of the whole update. The patch fixes a crash that could happen when a timer was triggered by a mission objective, which means mission flow should be less likely to blow up on players unexpectedly. It also fixes a crash in Blackrock Foothills during the cable car hand-over-hand section, a crash in Perseverance Mills if a manual save was made right before receiving the To Those Who Are Missing mission, and a crash in the SAR mission when entering the train with the HUD turned off. On top of that, Hydroam patched a rare journal-related crash and a hang that could happen when loading an Episode 1 through 4 save file from a death screen in Episode 5. That is a pretty wide spread of stability work, and it tells you the team was chasing down several different failure points, rather than just one isolated bug. There is also a gameplay fix that sounds minor, but really is not, because little details like this can pile up and make the game feel messy. Before the update, bloody hands from harvesting could persist between save games, and only clear if you fully exited the application. That has now been corrected, so the survivor's hands clean off after harvesting is complete. That is one of those fixes that players may not consciously think about every session, but once it is wrong, it becomes impossible to ignore. The patch also adjusts the Blackrock Foothills cable car sequence, so the closed captions do not run at the same time as the cinematic dialogue when the cinematic itself is supposed to take priority. What I like about this update is that it feels very targeted. It is not trying to reinvent the game or change its identity. Instead, it is focusing on making Episode 5 and the surrounding systems behave the way they should have from the start. That means fewer crashes, fewer save headaches, fewer weird presentation issues, and fewer moments where the game gets in the way of the story or the survival experience. For a game like The Long Dark, that matters a lot, because the tension comes from the world itself, not from technical problems fighting for attention. So if you have been waiting for the latest cleanup pass after Episode 5, this is the update to know about. The official notes show that the team was focused on fixing story mode cinematic behavior, PlayStation save and photo issues, and a whole group of crashes tied to missions, regions, journals, and save loading. In other words, this hotfix is doing exactly what a good hotfix should do, getting the game back to feeling steady, playable, and less frustrating in all the places where players were running into trouble.